All right, everyone. Hello. And I am here. I meant to do this last night, but the tofu was taking a while to get crunchy. I had some laundry to do, and I had to get ready for my trip tomorrow. Well, I had to at least start getting ready for my trip tomorrow in the way of laundry and packing and those things. So here we are tonight. All right. You guys know what week it is. It is Ohio State week. Coach Day, the Maserati, Brutus, and any obnoxious Ohio State fans that have tickets to get inside the big house. They're all coming. So I'm going to do my pregame show. I'm going to give my pregame thoughts, and then I'll wrap this up. I probably won't talk for an hour tonight. I don't know what I can add to this that everyone else hasn't already talked about. So you guys know my routine. I'm going to show the current top 25 rankings. They saw fit to flip our teams. So Ohio State leapt over us. I'm going to go over the Big Ten standings, and then I'm going to go over the prediction for the game. Right now, Michigan is favored to win the game. I don't know if they're doing that to try to make us overconfident and to set us up or to make Ohio State mad. But then I'm going to go over I think I'll go over Ohio State's schedule really, really quickly. Then I'll go over some of the statistics, and then I will wrap this stream up. So let's go. Let's jump in. All right. I'll see you on the other side of the intro.
Speaking of which, you know how I got these scars?
No, but I know how you got these.
You just couldn't let me go, could you? This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. You truly are incorruptible, aren't you? Huh? You won't kill me out of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness. And I won't kill you because you're just too much fun. I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
I tricked some of you, didn't I? You guys were expecting Let's Go Blue. But instead, I used that final Heath Ledger scene from The Dark Knight. And that just came to me because that's what this feels like with the investigation and with all of the speculation and accusations and the way this is being covered and all the chants of cheaters. There's this game. I got to the university in 1999. That was Tom Brady's last year. And I was there for Lloyd Carr's final run. And I watched the down years from a distance. I watched Coach Harbaugh come back. I watched Coach Harbaugh lose to Ohio State for 6 straight years. There was the COVID year, and then there were the last 2 years. And it's never felt like this before. This one feels like there's something in the air, from both sides. And I'm quoting Steve Daystair, who says he's never felt this level. We felt this level of animosity from the Ohio State fans towards us, but I don't know that I've ever felt this sort of angst from our fan base towards them. So this one feels different. This one feels personal. I see Snowman is there in the chat. Snowman has picked Brutus and his cronies to win this game. And as I'll show you, Vegas and whoever is making the predictions and the point spreads and whoever the odds makers are, they have somehow picked Michigan to win by 4 points. So who's correct? Who's accurate? All the Ohio State fans think they're going to win. A good chunk of the Michigan fans think we're going to win. Bump my table there. And then I think there are a lot of us who are undecided, who don't know, who think it's too close to call. And I think that's kind of where I'm falling down. I think it's too close to call based upon both teams being undefeated, based upon the Maryland game was scary for a lot of people. I was there in the stadium, so it was scary for me. But when you point out that Michigan, the Illinois game was the same way last year, and all of us were kind of thinking, okay, we're gonna get hammered once we go into the shoe. We were like that last year. And then you think about everything our team is going through. You think about that Roman Wilson was out after that first catch and that first hit, and Roman Wilson going out, that was huge, because as I was commuting home tonight, I realized if Roman Wilson had played in that game with his speed and with him being J.J. McCarthy's number one target, that changes the complexion of that entire game. That's our number one wide receiver. That's a target that Maryland has to account for. So there's just a lot to think about, and there's just a lot to there are some of us who don't know how Saturday's game is going to go. First placed records. I've never seen you before. Welcome. He says Michigan versus everybody. We take it 3 years running. Yeah, and there's a lot hanging in the balance for this game. I mean, not just the Big Ten East and most likely the Big Ten title and a berth to the college football playoff, but also the coaches, right? I mean, there's all kinds of speculation that Jim's going to go back to the NFL after everything that's happened this season. But if Ryan Day loses 3 straight years to us, you have to think his head is going to be on the chopping block as well. You have to think that. I mean, a lot of people wanted Jim Harbaugh gone after losing to Ohio State the 4th time. Not every fan base, not every school is as patient as Michigan is. So you have to think that Ryan Day, if he loses this game, yeah, he's toast. So there's a lot hanging in the balance here. Before I go on, let's get a word from Brady from back in the day when he took the reins.
But I was not a fan of that university in Ohio because my buddies were, so I had to be different.
So I have some notes here before I jump into all of the edibles. I'll call them the edibles, the substantive stuff that I want to present. I was listening to, in addition to my own thoughts. Oh, before I jump in, everyone, this is Big Discussion 76 Sports. You guys know who I am. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. I am a Michigan alum, and I am a proud Michigan football fan and a proud supporter of our team. Despite whatever happened, I am a proud supporter of our team and our coach. All right, and the players. Not necessarily Uncle T, but the coach and the players and the staff. By the way, I do have an Uncle T in my family. Shout out to my Uncle Tony, my oldest uncle. I have an Uncle T in my family. All right. So I wrote down a bunch of things here. I was listening to Joel Klatt and Steve Dace and Mark Rogers, and I watched Johnny Olden. Shout out to Johnny. And I was watching an Ohio State television station. So I just jotted down some notes here. I was thinking that the Marvin Harrison Will Johnson matchup is kind of like, it's going to be kind of like David Boston and Charles Woodson. Well, it could be that way. I don't know if it's going to get that contentious, but you're looking at a number one alpha wide receiver from Ohio State matching up against our number one corner. So we have to see if Will Johnson is up to the task of guarding Maserati Marvin, because that's probably who's going to guard him. Joe Klatt asked the question, is this the biggest U of M OSU game ever? Well, it could be. It's up there. It's up there with there have been some big ones. There was the 1997 game, Charles Woodson versus David Boston. There were all the bowl games. There was the 2006 game, the Chad Haney, Troy Smith, Ted Ginn Jr., Mike Hart, Mario Manningham game. That game was huge. There was the Wilton Speight 2016 game, the JT Barrett first down game. That one was huge. There was the Revenge Tour game where Ohio State was last on the list when Dwayne Haskins shredded Don Brown's Viper defense, and Jim called a game plan that was way too conservative. That game hurt. That was a big game. Joel Klatt talked about warning signs. Okay. Should Michigan fans be worried, concerned about what we saw in College Park? Is JJ okay? Is our offensive line going to be able to get some push on Ohio State? Right? Is being the head coach and the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, is that going to be too much for Sharon Moore in this game? He survived Penn State. We escaped College Park with the win, but is this game going to be too much for Sharon Moore? Is that too much for one man to do, for one man to handle in a game of this magnitude? Joe Klatt pointed out that Ohio State is peaking at the right time. So their defense gave their offense time to evolve, and now Travion Henderson is back. So they're peaking at the right time. Now let's take a look at this. They saw fit, the sports writers saw fit to flip the college football rankings and put Ohio State on top of us. So we were number 2. And right now, we're number 3. We're number 3. All right. Not a big difference, but the sports writers, the voters, they think they saw something that justified Ohio State jumping over us. Not a big jump, but other people think that they saw something. First Place Records says we took control of the Maryland game early and then led up off the gas, flat out looked past them, made for a tough finish, but we closed the show with the W. That's all that matters. On to the game. You know what? I agree with that. And I also think that if Roman was in there, that would have made a big difference. I watched Steve Dace and Mark Rogers yesterday as I was leaving work, and I think I finished it here. They were talking about this is the end of an era. So I think this, with more teams being allowed into the playoff, that may decrease the importance of this game. So this is going to be the last. This is arguably going to be the last game, the last Michigan Ohio State game with this level of importance, because only one team, unless the dominoes fall correctly, like they did last year for Ohio State, only one team will be able to go on to the playoff. So there'll be a little more wiggle room for both teams in the upcoming years. And I talked about the coaches' fates. We don't know what Jim's going to do, but we know that if Ryan Day loses this third straight game, it's likely that it's going to be for him. Now, what's funny is that and I'm going to jump in right now. What's funny is that everyone, for the rest of the week, the Michigan football fan base, be careful about getting engaged with everybody. Last night, Steve Dace and Mark Rogers, they even got into well, they're investigating Michigan for something. Well, that's because, someone leaked out this or someone leaked out that, and Steve Dace was getting into it with people in the chat. So be careful the rest of the week. And then if Michigan wins, those slanders and those turds will still keep coming out. So before I go on, I have a couple words from Jim here. Jim, where did you watch the game on Saturday?
Yeah, watched the game at my brother's house. Great to watch it with him. And what I saw was, a great and glorious win. Really happy with the team. And good to be around his football mind too. It was accomplished what we went there to do and got the mission done.
Okay, so again, guys, this one feels different. It feels personal in a way, and I thought that someone tweeted this yesterday. Jim was asked about respect for his level of respect for the Ohio State coaching staff, and I thought this was hilarious, so I captured it.
Jim, this rivalry has always been heated, of course. It seems like there's always been a fair level of respect between the coaches. It's hard to determine what that is right now. What would you say is your respect level for Ryan Day and their staff?
And Jim responded,
It's all about our preparation for Ohio. The days, the minutes, the hours, everything leading up to this game. That's where our focus is. Preparing ourselves and planning, gonna practice and then execute. So, anything else is irrelevant. When you get into this kind of big game week.
so they don't like each other. Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh, they don't like each other. That's going 4 to 5 years back. There was, Ryan Day back when he had Justin Fields. He said, we're going to hang, what did he say? We're going to hang 100 on you guys. And when Jim, during the Cinderella season, when we beat them in the snow, Jim made the triple comment afterwards. So there's bad blood. There's bad blood between these guys, and they don't like each other. And I like the way Jim kind of talked around that. And I want to say, before I jump in, I admire him for showing up every day with this going on and also fielding those questions and just enduring all of this. This must have been hard to endure all of it. Ryan Day. Bryant says, if Ryan Day and the program lose against Michigan again, they will just hire a spy agency to plant false evidence to take down the program. Okay, so we're playing a tough team.
This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio, and it's always been Ohio against the world, and it'll continue to be Ohio against the world. But I'll tell you what, I love those kids, and we got a tough team.
Okay, let me get going here because I don't have a lot of time tonight. We're playing a tough team this weekend. We're playing a tough team. Ryan Day's bringing his tough team in here. Okay, so there's a lot on the line. Right now, the Big Ten standings look like this. Michigan and Ohio State are both 8-0 in the conference. We're leading the Big Ten East, and the winner is going to get, I believe, Iowa. Iowa is going to be waiting for the winner of Saturday's game, and the winner of that game will go on to the college football playoff. In terms of Michigan's schedule, you guys know what this is. Michigan is 11-0, and our team was criticized the entire season for basically routing all of these soft opponents. For a little while, they had the boa constrictor analogy. Joe Klatt was using the boa constrictor analogy up until the Penn State game. Michigan won that game 24-15. That was the first of this last set of suspensions for Coach Harbaugh. Sherrone Moore took over. and Michigan did something it hadn't really done all season. It tilted its offensive game plan towards running the ball, and they were able to have some success against that Penn State defense, and they were able to contain a limited Penn State offense. So they won that game 24-15. And then we had last week's scare in College Park. Roman Wilson went out early. There were a number of other injuries. JJ threw that interception. He missed Cornelius Johnson deep. And that brings us to Saturday's Classic in the Big House. So this is the big one. Everything's been building towards this. I'm going to pull up Ohio State's schedule really, really quickly, just so we can kind of compare how they did. Give me 1 second here. Ohio State football schedule. Let's see. So Ohio started with Indiana, then Youngstown State, beat them handily. They beat Indiana 23-3. They beat Youngstown State 35-7. They beat Western Kentucky 63-10. Notre Dame, they beat them 17-14. They beat Maryland 37-17. So they beat them by 20. We beat them by 7. And a couple of things had to fall our way for that. They beat Purdue 41-7, similar to us. Penn State, they beat them 20-12. Let's see, that's a 8-point margin. We beat them 24-15. We beat them by 9 points. So very similar. They beat Wisconsin 24-10. They defeated Rutgers 35-16. We beat Rutgers more decisively. They beat Michigan State 38-3. We defeated Michigan State more decisively. Minnesota, they defeated them 37-3. We were similar, and that brings them to us on November 25th. All right. So I'm going to take a look at the prediction, and then I'll go over the statistics. So the prediction right now, and this hasn't changed since Sunday. Right now, Michigan is picked to win this game by 4 points. Where did I see that? Yeah, the point spread. Michigan is a 3.5-point favorite against Ohio State, according to the lines at Sports Illustrated Sportsbook, which set the total at 47.5 points per game. The line opened at 5.5 points in Michigan's favor, but has moved the other way since the open. Okay, so it started at 5.5, and now it's down to 3.5. So about 4 points. All right. So that's not a huge margin. Just like flipping us from 2-3 and flipping Ohio State from 3-2 is not a big difference. 4 points is not a big difference, but they're picking Michigan nonetheless. What do they know? What do the sports books know that everybody else doesn't know? Why, with everything that's been happening with Michigan, why, and with Ohio State peaking at the right time, and with our offensive line not playing up to the standard of last year's team, and with our head coach out, what do they know that everyone else doesn't know? What do they know that Ohio State fan doesn't know? What do they know? What do they know that Paul Feinbaum doesn't know? What do they know that they would pick us to win the game? I don't know. Let's see. So I'm going to go over some of the statistics here. Then I'm going to wrap this stream up because I really think this is too close to call. And I was looking at these stats yesterday. I'm a scientist, so I do, yeah, I do deal in numbers and I do deal in trends and percentages. So total offense, this is on the Big Ten website. You guys can look this up yourselves. So in terms of scoring, Michigan is leading the Big Ten in scoring with an average of 38.3 points per game. Ohio State is third. They're averaging 33.6 points per game. All right, you guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat in terms of scoring defense. Michigan is allowing an average of only 9 points a game. Ohio State is right up there under us. So they're averaging 9.3. They're allowing 9.3 points per game. All right. Now let's take a look at offense and defense. So in terms of total offense, in terms of yardage per game, Ohio State is number 1 in the Big Ten. They're averaging 429.3 total yards per game. Michigan is right behind them, averaging 399.6 yards per game. Okay, Ohio State has generated 1,601 rushing yards this year. Michigan has generated 1,881 rushing yards. All right. In terms of passing yards, Ohio State has generated 3,121 passing yards. Michigan has generated 2,515 passing yards. So we're kind of tilted like this. We're slightly a better rushing team. They're slightly a better passing team. All right. So in terms of total team defense, Michigan is allowing 234.8 yards per game. Penn State is number 3. So we're number 1. Penn State's number 3. Ohio State's number 3. They're allowing 252.8 yards per game. Okay. Michigan has allowed 1,593 total passing yards. Michigan has allowed 990 total rushing yards. Ohio State has allowed 1,194 total rushing yards, and they have allowed 1,587 total passing yards. Okay. So our rushing defense is slightly more stingy than theirs, but our passing defenses are similar. Okay. All right. I'll be watching the game with this guy here. He's been a diplomatic Buckeye fan. If they win on Sunday, he might celebrate extra hard. But he's been a good Buckeye fan. All right. Let's take a look at rushing. All right, Michigan has the number 3 rushing offense in the Big Ten. I just described they've generated 1,881 yards for an average of 171 rushing yards per game. Now these stats are a little deceptive because Travion Henderson is back and he's been shredding defenses. So this is not one could say this is not an apples to apples comparison. But up to this point, Ohio State is number 8 in rushing offense. They've generated 370 yards. They've generated 1,601 yards for an average of 145 yards per game. But that's with Travion Henderson being out and then coming back. So that might be a little bit deceptive. In terms of rushing defense, Michigan is number 3. Michigan has allowed 990 yards for an average of 90 yards per game. Ohio State is number 5 in rushing defense in the Big Ten. They've allowed 1,194 rushing yards for an average of 108. So that arguably bodes well for our somewhat effective but somewhat struggling rushing game, and so they could show some good production against Ohio State this year. Last year we didn't have Blake Corum, and Donovan got in there and was able to do work, but now we have both backs. So there may be something there for our running game. Passing. Okay. Ohio State has the #1 passing offense in the Big Ten. They've generated 3,121 yards for an average of 283.7 yards per game. Cal McCord has thrown 24 touchdowns. Okay, Michigan we have the #4 ranked passing attack in the Big Ten. All right. J.J. McCarthy, he's gotten most of the snaps, has generated 2,515 passing yards for an average of 228.6 yards per game. JJ has thrown 20 touchdowns this season. So 24 for Cal McCord and 20 for JJ McCarthy. Please smash that like button if you're just coming in. I'm going to go for just a little bit longer. I'm going over the stats. I'm comparing the teams right now. Passing defense. Okay, here we go. Passing defense. Ohio State has the #1 ranked passing defense. All right, so their defense is better this year than it was last year. So they've allowed 1,587 yards for an average of 144.3. And right under them is our defense. Michigan has the #2 ranked passing defense. Michigan has allowed 1,593 yards for an average of 144.8. Ohio State has allowed 7 passing touchdowns. Michigan has allowed 5. So I think this helps account for that predicted score with us being just over Ohio State. This is really too close to call, and we won't know until the teams meet up on Saturday how this is gonna go. All right. Offensive efficiency. Michigan and Ohio State are #1 and #2. Defensive efficiency, Michigan and Ohio State are #1 and #2. All right. So let's do defense. Let's go over some defense. So sacks against. Okay, so sacks against. Michigan has allowed 13 sacks. Ohio State has allowed 18. Okay. 13 versus 18. Sacks by. Michigan has sacked opposing quarterbacks 27 times. Ohio State has sacked opposing quarterbacks 21 times. Okay. And one of watching Johnny Olden's analysis early on, or last night and earlier on today, part of his prediction was that the game was going to go in part how Kyle McCord plays. So I'm going to come back to that. Let's see, interceptions. Michigan leads the Big Ten in interceptions with 14. Ohio State is #12. So they have 7 interceptions. Okay. I think that's a big stat right there. All right, so I'm going to finish up with, let's take a look at let's go to conversions. For first downs, Michigan and Ohio State are 2 and 3. For opponents, first downs, Michigan is #1. Ohio State is #3. Okay, so I think that's first downs allowed. Yeah, so Michigan has allowed the fewest first downs this season. Third down conversions, Michigan is #1. Ohio State is #2. Opponent third down conversions, Michigan and Ohio State are #1 and #2. Fourth down conversions, Michigan is #3. Ohio State is #8. Okay. Again, keep in mind, Trayvon Henderson was out for most of this season. Okay. Opponents' fourth down conversions, Michigan is #3. Ohio State is #4. So they're neck and neck right there. Okay. So I'm going to take a look at the leaders, and then I think I'll wrap this up. All right. Rushing. So if this is correct, if I'm reading this correctly, yeah, in the short time he's come back, TreVeyon Henderson is number one of all the Big Ten rushers in terms of average yards per game. So he's averaging 99.3. That's off of 118 attempts, and he's generated 794 yards. Blake Corum is number 4. So he's rushed the ball 180 times for 888 yards for an average of 80.7. Okay, so hey, in that time TreVeyon's been back, he's been putting in work. So we're gonna have to look out for him. Hopefully Jesse Minter has something diagrammed for this. Passing. Come on, go away. Talia Tungavailoa is number 1. Kyle McCord is number 2. JJ McCarthy is number 3. So JJ McCarthy has an efficiency rating of 178.3. Kyle McCord has a efficiency rating of 163.2. Again, Kyle McCord has thrown 22 touchdowns. JJ has thrown 18. Okay, Kyle McCord has thrown for 2,899 yards. JJ McCarthy has thrown for 2,335. They've both thrown 4 interceptions. Kyle McCord has more attempts than JJ. Kyle McCord has thrown the ball 318 times. JJ has thrown it 237 times. So now let's go to receiving. We all know who's leading in receiving. The Maserati Marvin. Marvin Harrison is leading the Big Ten in receiving with 62 receptions for 1,093 yards and 13 touchdowns. And he's averaging about 100 yards per game in receiving yardage. Our leading receiver is Roman Wilson, and he is... Where are you, Roman? I saw you earlier. He's number 8. Roman Wilson has caught 37 balls for 612 yards and 10 touchdowns. But the teams are built differently. The chemistries are different. Marvin is the number 1 receiver, and he is Kyle McCord's top target. So that's how the teams match up and kind of line up in terms of the statistics. So this is kind of hard to call what's gonna happen. So I wrote down, and some of these you may have heard already. Some of these you may have heard on Johnny Olden's channel and on other channels. But I wrote down running the ball. If we can run the ball, we'll have a good chance to win the game. If we can spread the ball around, I think that will be huge. If Roman is healthy, I think that's a major piece put back in our offense, and I think you'll see a more fluid offense than what we saw last week. They're going to pull out everything for this game, and yeah, this is the game both teams are looking forward to and have been looking forward to. So they're going to leave it all out there. So you're going to see a lot of both teams are probably going to play very, very inspired football. It's going to be huge for Michigan to pass protect for JJ McCarthy. If he's getting rushed and if he's getting knocked down, and if he's not 100%, that could impact the game quite a bit. And then there's concern over Sharon Moore being the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and then the offensive line coach. So can he multitask in an effective way this third and most important time? On defense, I wrote this. Johnny gave some excellent commentary on the defense in his video. The big thing I'm concerned about is the tackling, particularly the tackling in space. Okay. Will Johnson is probably going to cover Marvin Harrison. So you want your defensive backs. This is basic. and our defensive backs, they break this rule quite a bit. If you're running with the guy, turn your head so you can see where the ball is, so you can knock it away or intercept it. Sometimes our guys keep their heads turned this way. But also tackling in space. Tackle in space. I think they were really, really solid with that last year. But in the Maryland game and in a few other instances, you see guys missing tackles and trying to wrap guys up. In this game, you got to get a hold of Marvin. You got to get a hold of Kate Stover. You got to get a hold of Travion and pull those guys down. I mean, those missed tackles, those hurt because you can stop first downs. You can have the other team off schedule and second and long and third and long. But when you have the guy and you miss the guy and he runs for a first down or more, that's demoralizing, and it just kills. It kills everything. It keeps the team out there longer, keeps the defense out there longer. So that's what I'm concerned about. Josh Wallace, Rod Moore, Mikey Sainristil, tackle in the space, wrap those guys up, wrap Marvin up when you got them. Don't allow those long gains. And I think that's the big thing. Regardless of what Jesse Minter scribbles up, I'm a fundamentals guy. I think it's going to come down to fundamentals. Yeah. Johnny said in his video, "Let the dogs eat." I say, yeah, let them pressure Kyle McCord. And I think I'm going to second what he said. I think the game needs to be put on Kyle McCord's shoulders. So make them dink and dunk down the field. All right. Don't give up big plays, and make him beat us. Make him the focal point of the game. See if he can handle it. See if he can do it. I think that's going to be the key on defense. I don't really have anything for special teams. I think Tommy Doman, I think he's solid. He pinned Maryland back on the 1 yard line when we needed him to do that. James Turner, he's been money all season. So, yeah. Our offensive line, JJ's health. Can we get a running game going? Blake will probably play inspired since it's his last game in the big house and it's against our number one rival. Also, I think they need to use Donovan creatively. Okay. Now that he's not sharing the ball. He's sharing the ball in this game. Last year, he got all the carries. So move Donovan around. Put him in the slot. Make him a receiver. Also, keep using Samaj Morgan. If the offense starts to stall out, dial up a jet sweep like we've done. Call those wide receiver screens for Samaj Morgan. And look for the tight ends. Make those Ohio State linebackers cover in space. So there we are. That's pretty much all I've got. So the prediction is Michigan by 4, but in my opinion, it is too close to call. I won't know until I sit down and watch the game and watch it all unfold like everybody else. So I'm going to read a few more of your comments here, and then I think I'm going to wrap this up because I'm at 45 minutes and I have to pack so I can go watch the game with Raheem Gaines on Saturday. His nickname is Urban Gaines because he was a riding with the Buckeyes when Herb was the coach, so that's what I call him. I call him Urban Gaines. He says our special teams are trash, which is a concern in a game like this. Oh, really? I didn't go over those statistics. So you're gonna make me look at your field goal kicker now. Is it your kicker or your punter? Or your return team? Let's see. Punting. What's that? Mirka Jesse. He's number 7. He's ranked number 7 in terms of punting. Your field goal kickers. I'm just taking a quick look here, guys. I'm not going to bring it all the way up. Let's see. Where's James Turner? James Turner's number 11. Your field goal kicker is number 5. What do these rankings mean? So your field goal kicker, his longest kick, Jaden Fielding, was 47 yards. James Turner's longest kick is 50 yards. James Turner made per game 8. Let's see. Okay. Well, you know what? Raheem Gaines, I'm going to take your word for it. I'm going to take your word for it that your special teams are trash. I'm not going to prolong the stream because I have to get ready to go and I have to eat something before it gets too late. So he says all of the above, they get nothing from their return game. Well, hey, we don't get much from ours either. That has not been one of the most explosive parts of our team. And when I particularly on punts, most of the time I want the guy to just catch the ball and not fumble it. I mean, I think huge Deion Sanders like returns, those are bonuses. But I just want my guys to field the ball and don't do something stupid with it. All right, everyone, that's pretty much what I've got. I think it's too close to call. I think from what I saw, I watched the entire Ohio State Penn State game, and for the rest of the season, I've seen Ohio State in bits and pieces. In that Penn State game, Travion Henderson was out, so the offense was a little more one-dimensional. Cal McCord was definitely looking Marvin Harrison Jr.'s way, and Penn State didn't seem to be double covering him or bracketing him, so he was pretty much running underneath and getting whatever he wanted. It looks like Will Johnson will play him. He probably will. And we'll have to see if Jesse Minter double covers Marvin or brackets him. If that happens, then someone else is going to be open. But I saw them play Penn State. So I think, you'll have Travion Henderson there, but my question is, what happens if Marvin Harrison gets taken away in the passing game? Yeah, how will your offense adjust to that? And then defensively, well, we know last year is probably fresh on their minds in terms of what happened last year defensively. But yeah, how will you guys match up with us in this game? Penn State offensively didn't challenge either of us. So I can't really make that comparison because Penn State was offensively challenged against both of us. But how is your offense? How's your defense going to do against our offense? All right, everyone, let me know what you think. If you're watching this in the playback, let me know what you think in the comments section below. I think it's too close to call for me right now. And yeah, I know for our side, there's just been a lot going on with all the off the field stuff. And then there are some injuries. And I don't know what's happened with JJ. He did look like he took a hit in the Penn State game, and folks said he didn't look right in the Maryland game, but his number one target was out too. So I don't know. So we'll see what happens on Saturday at noon. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for those of you who hung out in the chat and commented. If you're watching on the playback, let me know what you think in terms of what's going to happen on Saturday. It's a huge game. It's the last of its kind for our conference and these two teams, and there's a lot on the line. So there we are. This is Big Discussions 76 Sports. Please like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to Bo Lytle. Respect is earned. So if you see fit, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're new here, please definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Help push me to 1,300 and beyond. If you want to donate something, to the channel. My Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. You can also leave a super thanks. And I think I will stop this here. So look for a post-game show sometime on Saturday afternoon after the game. It's either going to be a third straight Big Ten championship game for the Maize and Blue, or Ryan Day will have gotten his revenge. So we'll see. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. Go Blue. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Go Blue. Beat Ohio State.